The Eagles are starting to get some major developments with the NFL draft now just under a month away, as with free agency dying down, the Birds already have some wild draft updates, including them bringing in a few new exciting prospects on top 30 visits, along with a couple draft experts weighing in on who the Eagles may take in the first round, and it's all pretty exciting. So in this video, I'll break down all the latest Eagles draft news, including why a Bryce Huff trade is looking more likely than ever, plus the Birds just signed a new offensive lineman in free agency, and it's a great move. So again, I'm going to talk about that and all the other news starting right now. NFL free agency has definitely quieted down significantly after a wild first week that, of course, saw a bunch of different things happen for the Eagles, whether that be guys leaving, trades, or the Birds making some smaller signings. But again, since then, not too much has happened. That said, like I talked about in my last video, just because things have quieted down a bit, that does not mean that Howie Roseman and the Birds are done making moves. And while I think the biggest moves are still yet to come, Howie Roseman did make a smaller but pretty important signing on Monday as he brought in veteran offensive tackle Kendall Lamm on a one-year deal. And this is important because with Fred Johnson going to the Jaguars in free agency, the Birds didn't really have anybody to fill that role as the backup swing tackle that you can rely on to step up should either Jordan Mailata or Lane Johnson have to miss some time. And Lamm is a guy that can definitely do that, as he started 7 out of 15 games played for the Dolphins last year, and he's got a lot of experience, being 32 years old and having played 10 seasons in the NFL since being drafted in 2015. And in that time, he's played in 119 games and made 44 starts while suiting up for the Dolphins, Texans, Titans, and Browns. So again, he's definitely got a lot of playing experience, and he still played fairly well last season, particularly in pass protection, where he was given an 83.1 grade by PFF, which ranked 10th out of 141 tackles. Now, his run block rate of 53.7, which ranked 109th, isn't nearly as impressive, but he was playing through a debilitating back injury last year, which he ended up having to get surgery for. So at 32, maybe that's not great, but it does at least show how physically tough and strong-minded he is, which is just one of the many reasons why Eagles legendary offensive line coach Jeff Stoutland is going to love the addition of Lamm.
Well, I'll say this. The guy that I was with in Houston was Coach O'Brien, and the way we do things here is beautiful, don't get me wrong, but it was very different when I was in Houston. You know, that's a New England style. That's everybody's there 5-10 minutes early. The phone was put on the, no phones in the meeting room. If it came on in the meeting room, you were dead scared. Like, it was just a different environment. Plus, it's a different state of the world. It's a different time. So it's like, from my perspective, I mean, they taught us how to be pros very early. You know, I was picking Dwayne Brown's mind, Derek Newton, Ben Jones. I can go down to Suafilo, Brandon Brooks. Like, I always want to see their routines. And at the same time, I had the Vince Wilforks, Whitney Merciless, J.J. Watts, Brian Cushings across the line for me, to name a few. So it's like, and I was fortunate enough to practice against them very early with the ones. So I had to learn shit very fast. And it's like, when you break down your film and when you talk to them, you learn, okay, you may have had a good day today, but it has nothing to do with tomorrow. You have to build your Rolodex. You have to see what worked. You have to see what didn't. And you kind of start the process all over again tomorrow. So for me, it was all about, you know, stacking good days, but being very real with yourself. Because, I mean, the film doesn't lie. So, yes, sir.
Shout out to Victor Williams on Twitter for finding this clip. But again, I think Stout's going to love this guy because it seems like he's got the exact right mentality. He's used to being coached hard and he's ready to work. So I think he's going to fit right into the dog culture of the Eagles locker room and, of course, the offensive line room. So overall, I'm really happy about the addition of Lamm, and I think he's a great option to fill in for Fred Johnson's role as the backup swing tackle. But what do you guys think? Speaking of the offensive line, though, I do want to switch my focus over to Tyler Steen for just a minute because obviously it looks like he's currently the clear favorite to start at right guard next season with Mekhi Becton now in LA. And I initially said when Becton left that I'm pretty confident in Steen and think he can be a good starting right guard for us, and I still feel that way. However, these numbers that I recently saw when checking out Eagle Owl's video, shout out to him, did make me think for a second. As last year, Steen had a PFF grade of just 40.6, ranking 130th of 135 guards, while his 37.7 pass blocking grade ranked him 112th, and his run blocking grade of 50.6 ranked him 123rd. So obviously those numbers are pretty terrible. That said, the eye test kind of tells a different story, as when Steen did play and in the 4 games he started, the Birds O-line didn't seem to miss a beat, and obviously, as I talked about in a previous video, the offense balled out in those games. And again, Steen did not at all seem like a clear weakness to me. Plus, with more playing time and reps, he's only going to get better. And that's not even mentioning that the Birds obviously have Jeff Stoutland, who we've seen time and time again help develop players and get the best out of them. So again, I still do have confidence in Steen and think he can be a good player. That said, after looking at those numbers, it might not be a sure thing, but we'll have to wait and see. And maybe there's a chance that Kenyon Green or Trevor Keegan could compete with Steen for that job, Or the Birds could also bring somebody in during the draft to compete for that spot as well. And based on the Eagles' top 30 visits so far, that doesn't seem super unrealistic, as like I talked about in a previous video, all of their first 4 visits have been with offensive linemen. Now, it does seem more likely that the Eagles are actually looking for an eventual Lane Johnson successor rather than a guard, just based on the guys they've been looking at, but still, it's pretty clear that the Eagles are likely to take an offensive lineman early in this draft. However, it also seems like there's a strong chance that the Eagles could go defensive line early as well, possibly with their first round pick. And draft analyst Mel Kiper's post-free agency mock draft has the Birds doing just that, as he has the Birds taking Ole Miss defensive tackle Walter Nolen with the 32nd pick. And I gotta say, if the Eagles did do that, then I'd be absolutely thrilled. I mean, Nolen is clearly one of the best defensive tackle prospects in the entire draft, as he's both a force rushing the passer and in stopping the run, as he just put up a total of 6.5 sacks and 14 tackles for loss last year while anchoring Ole Miss's defense that was possibly its most productive unit in school history. Plus, his 88.9 PFF grade in 2024 is pretty darn impressive, and overall, he's just tough, he's physical, he plays with a relentless effort, he's smart, he's quick, he's agile, and he just has all the physical tools and ability to both make an impact early in his career and develop and get even better to eventually become a very good NFL player. So if the Eagles could have him fall and snag him at 32 or trade up a couple spots to get him, I think that'd be amazing, especially after losing Milton Williams in free agency. However, Nolen isn't the only exciting defensive lineman that the Birds could target early, as draft analyst Daniel Jeremiah also released his post-free agency mock draft, where he had Texas A&M edge rusher Shemar Stewart going to the Eagles at 32. And this is yet another scenario that I wouldn't mind, as Stewart is one of the top-ranked prospects at his position and is a guy with a ton of potential, as he's freakishly athletic and has all the physical tools to be very good at the NFL level. Plus, he's another guy with a high motor who plays with physicality, and he has the ability to both pressure the quarterback and set the edge and stop the run. Now, the one real concern with him is the lack of sack numbers and just overall ability to finish plays specifically, as he had just 4.5 total sacks over 3 seasons played, and his run stop numbers are also very low as well. However, in terms of the pass rush, the pressures are still there, as he had 39 of those just last season, and he still wins in the run game and can set the edge like I said earlier. And as I said, he still has all the potential to be really, really good. So, given time to develop, be coached up by guys like Vic Fangio and Eagles D-line coach Clint Hurt. And also, if he were playing in an Eagles defense that features guys like Jalen Carter and Nolan Smith, there is a reason to believe that those sack numbers and his total production would go up. However, he is still definitely at risk, so I don't quite know how I feel about him. Again, the potential is there. Maybe I wouldn't mind if the Eagles drafted him, but he probably wouldn't be my first choice, because again, who knows if he's going to pan out. But again, still, keep an eye on Stewart as a potential draft target for the Birds. Speaking of which, there's obviously plenty more guys that you could add to that list of possibly being draft targets for the Eagles. Far too many to go over in just one video, so I'm going to be continuing to talk about these guys and so many more as we get closer and closer to the draft. And we did get some more news Monday involving different pro days the Eagles were attending that could be pretty important, with Anthony DeBona tweeting out this list saying, quote, "Eagles scouts should be busy today with quite a few notable pro days happening. Boston College edge Donovan Ezeiruaku, Bowling Green tight end Harold Fannin Jr., Iowa safety Sebastian Castro, Marshall edge Mike Green, Miami tight end Elijah Arroyo, and Toledo interior defensive lineman Darius Alexander. Now, all those guys are interesting prospects that definitely could make sense for the Birds, and on Tuesday, we got some pretty big news regarding one of those names specifically, and that's Boston College edge rusher Donovan Ezeiruaku, as the Eagles are reportedly using one of their top 30 visits on him. And as I've said before, these top 30 visits are super important because they've been pretty indicative of who the Eagles will end up drafting in recent years. So the fact that they're meeting with Ezeiruaku shows that they have significant interest in him, and he's very much a candidate for them at pick 32. And personally, I'm pretty happy about that because Ezeiruaku is one of the best edge rushers in this entire draft class, having put up a whopping 16.5 sacks last year with Boston College, which tied a school record, along with 20.5 tackles for loss. So he's had some pretty insane production at the college level, to say the least, and there's no question as to why either, as he's a very well-refined pass rusher, having multiple ways at which he can get to the quarterback. He's got good bend, he's quick, he's smart, he's relentless, and he has a high motor, so all that obviously helps with his production. Plus, he's good against the run as well, so, just overall, Ezeiruaku is a really good player that can wreak havoc in the opposing offense's backfield, and I feel like he's a guy that could be a good player at the NFL level. Now, the downsides with him are that he's not exactly the most gifted athletically and his size isn't the best, but again, overall, I think he's still a really good prospect and a guy who I like and again, I think can become a good player. So I'm definitely excited that the Birds are using a top 30 visit on him, and again, keep your eye on him as a potential first-round target. However, another intriguing name on Anthony DeBona's list to me is Bowling Green tight end Harold Fannin Jr., simply due to the fact that he obviously played under former Bowling Green head coach and now Eagles quarterbacks coach Scott Loeffler for his whole college career. Plus, with the uncertainty surrounding Dallas Goedert's future in Philly, it seems like Fannin could be a very realistic target for the Birds. And this is a guy who I've talked about more in depth before, but I really like the idea of drafting him at some point on day 2, as not only did he put up over 1,500 yards receiving last season, but he's just a fantastic receiving tight end in general with great hands, very good speed, and great run after the catch ability. And despite a smaller frame, he's still no slouch as a blocker either. So again, Fannin will definitely be another guy to keep your eye on as we get closer to the draft. And of course, so will all the prospects that the Eagles bring on top 30 visits, as again, those are super important. And now we've got a couple more players we can add to that list. The first one being Kentucky cornerback Maxwell Hairston, who revealed that he had met with the Eagles in an IG story post on March 20th. And Hairston's a guy who I've seen projected to go anywhere from round 1 to round 3, so I'm not quite sure where the Eagles would try to get him at, but after his impressive performance at the Combine, I think his stock is definitely up, so he may go a bit earlier. And overall, Hairston is an exciting prospect as he's a fantastic athlete with great speed. He's primarily a zone corner, and he's been fantastic at that, so he'd fit right into Vic Fangio's defensive scheme. He's also got great route recognition and discipline to not bite on double moves. He's got a knack for taking the football away, having 6 interceptions, 3 of which were pick sixes, 10 passes defended, and 3 forced fumbles in 3 seasons at Kentucky. And overall, again, he's just a good prospect with high upside. And a lot of you guys have mentioned him in my comments as someone that the Birds should look at. So it looks like they're doing their homework there. And my one question is, well, do the Eagles really need to draft a corner, especially early? Because we know Q and Cooper great, and we still have Keely Ringo who can start at that last spot, but you know, maybe it's a case where they want to bring in some competition or they just want to get the best player available and they see Hairston as a guy that could be there when they're picking. So we'll see, but again, add Maxwell Hairston to the Birds list of top 30 visits. And also add SMU edge rusher Elijah Roberts to that list, who, according to a report from Justin Mello, will meet with the Eagles on the top 30 visits. So there's another defensive line target for the Birds in this draft, with Roberts being more of a mid to late round target, but he's still an intriguing prospect as he's a really good run defender with great power. He's got a high motor, and his production from his last 2 years at SMU suggests that he can rush the passer, as he had 17.5 sacks, 93 tackles, and 44 forced fumbles in that time. So obviously, he's got quite a bit to work on, but as a mid to late round prospect, I definitely like him. So again, there's another name to keep your eye on as an Eagles draft target. And again, obviously, there's a lot more prospects out there that the Eagles could be interested. So again, I'm going to be talking about all these guys and more as we get closer and closer to the draft. It is interesting, though, seeing the guys that have been mocked to the Eagles or the guys that they've brought in on top 30 visits, because a lot of those guys are at the edge rusher position, even though the Eagles already signed 2 guys there this offseason anyway. So I feel like that can maybe be even more of an indicator that the Eagles are really going to try and trade Bryce Huff at some point to just get off that contract. And I've seen plenty of rumors surrounding that in recent days, with the most prominent one suggesting a Huff trade to the Lions for a 4th and 7th round pick, which, if that was possible, I think the Eagles would do that deal in a heartbeat despite the dead cap they'd have to eat this year. Now, would the Lions do that? That may be a different story, but still, a potential Bryce Huff trade, whether that's with the Lions or another team, is going to be something to keep your eye on for the rest of the offseason. And you guys know that I'm going to be continuing to cover all the news that comes out for the Eagles this offseason, so if you don't want to miss any of that, then make sure you subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss when I upload any videos or go live. And also, while you're at it, make sure you drop a like as well to show some support, because it really does help me out a ton. Let's see if we can try to get to 600 likes today, and also leave a comment down below just regarding anything that I talked about in this video. Who is your Eagles top draft target as of right now? And also, if you want to watch another Eagles video, you can check this one out right here. And now with all that being said, that's pretty much all I got for this one, guys. So thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.